Nice to see you all. Anyway, welcome. So this morning we're going to do, for the practice day, we do start with like a couple of meditations on karma, since that's the topic, yeah? It's a good one to do the meditations on. And so we'll do a couple of meditations on karma. And then short ones, about half an hour, 35 minutes. We'll have a 5-minute break. So we'll try and keep silence for the first two meditations. And so obviously during the meditation, then we have a 5-minute break and we'll do about another half an hour, 35 minutes of meditation. Then we'll have about a 15-minute break, pee, have a cup of tea, whatever. Then we'll go into a little bit discussion on how to do Vajrasattva practice. Some of us know already, but just going over the key points of that meditation, and then we'll finish by doing the Vajrasattva together. And within in that, we'll have a bit Q&A as well. If whoever has, I know Dana has a couple of questions, so we'll have some Q&A and, like that as well, connection. So Tommy just came in, so 2 meditations where we'll try and keep the spaces silence, even in the 5-minute break. On karma, a little bit using Shakyamuni Buddha practice as the basis. So every time we meditate in the Lam room, it's really good, and we'll go into this, a little bit, develop the daily meditation practice when we get to that module, which is after refuge. So after karma, we have refuge, and then we have establishing a daily practice. So, but we just touch on it now by doing the refuge practice, a little bit mantra, visualizing Shakyamuni Buddha. We need that as a support for our Lam room practice, for our meditation. As well as when we start with a little bit breathing meditation, that supports the practice of the Lam Rim, because the Lam Rim's what's really, those thought processes, these analytical meditations, is what really, we have to analyze the Dharma, yeah? And we have to use our thoughts, and having thoughts in a more controlled way than this kind of scattered neurotic thinking, So to stabilize, create a space in our mind for wholesome analysis of the Lam Rim, that has a deeper impact on our mind in the space of meditation. Then we do these preliminary practices to create that environment for, analysis, for Lam Rim to sort of flourish and impact our minds, our hearts, our sort of way we live our life, when we come off the cushion. So we usually do some kind of, Shakyamuni, breathing, Shakyamuni practice as a basis, also to receive the blessing, the sort of quality and meaning of that particular Lam Rim topic we're reflecting on. Does that make sense? So let's go into, for this first hour or so, really trying to go into meditation practice, even though we're still busy in our lives. You can't really get into a proper sort of retreat space in a few hours, but we just try to sort of drop in to a certain extent into that retreat, quieter, more simple space in our mind where we can do reflective meditation. So just checking in with our body and our posture for a couple of minutes, connecting with the breath and the body and awareness. A couple of breaths, really breathing in deeply and exhaling, even through the breath, through the mouth, any kind of busy energy, stale energy in the body and mind. Do that for a couple of breaths. And let's do a minute of just scanning through the body with breath and awareness. I often say it's like doing a little bit of acupuncture on yourself. Imagine you're the doctor, the acupuncturist, and you're just checking. But the acupuncturist is your own breath and awareness. And we're going through, checking as we go down from the crown all the way, moving down the into the eye area, using breath and awareness just to soften and relax any areas of tension, darkness, stuckness that we find, and just breathing in, releasing and relaxing, opening that area of the body up, just like the needles an acupuncturist, goes into that area. So with the needly awareness, but still soft and gentle, but with some sort of vitality, opening up tension block areas in the body and mind as we move down through the body, just checking up inside and outside the body with breath and awareness. So let's do this for a minute. And to settle our mind even more, just spend a minute again, just being with the sensation. Helps to ground our energy a little bit more in the body. The sensation of the sit bones on the cushion or the chair. And what I find helpful is imagining that we're not just in a cushion or chair, but we're on the earth. Cushion or the chair is the earth. So we're just getting some energy for the vitality, the freshness, the ions, that positive energy that kind of breathes through the earth. But we're being with that sensation, that feeling, just allowing it to move through the body, to freshen the body and mind. And then to further sort of vitalize the mind, clear the stale wind, as I've mentioned a few times before, the mind consciousness rides on a subtle wind. So when we do practices like yoga, tai chi, qigong, or basic breathing exercises, it helps to create a space for meditation because it clears the winds in the body, settles the mind. So here we're just going to do, for that purpose, the 9-round breathing. Bringing the first finger, the left hand, closing off the right nostril. So long, slow, deep breathing. Soft through the jaw, keeping soft through the jaw and the throat into the belly area. For around the count of 4, inhale through the left. And holding the breath for a count of 1, maybe 2, and then exhaling through the right as we move that finger from one nostril to the next. For about the count of 4 again. So doing that 3 times. And when you're finished do on the opposite side 3 times, and closing off the left nostril, inhale through the right. For around the count of 4, noticing if the breath gets a little bit deeper and longer as we start to relax a little bit more. And feeling like even when we hold the breath for a count of 1 or 2, it's creating some more spaciousness in the body and mind. Then through both nostrils, 3 times. And then in that space, just take a moment to connect, clarifying your own mind, what your intention, motivation, what brought you here to this class today, just clarifying that for yourself. So again, it's another support for our meditation, for our Lamrim practice. Let's just visualize the founder, from whom these teachings came, the source of all these teachings, Shakyamuni Buddha. Try to imagine, feel his presence, just start to form in the space before us, about a body length away. Or as we can see in the image, looking at the image and trying to form that, feel that presence like rainbow light, transparent but very powerful like the sun, starting to form in the space before us. Typically the Buddha's also seated on a what we call a lion throne. A throne, beautiful throne, again a golden throne, supported by lions. So this is showing the Buddha's nobility, you know, nobility of his mind. All the aspects of the image of the Buddha all emanate a certain quality of mind that the Buddha embodies. Not even Buddhists, but many people just get attracted to the image of the Buddha. They feel a peacefulness, sense of calm, just by looking or gazing at the image, a statue, picture of the Buddha. People have the image in their garden, in their hallway, entranceway. You know, they kind of feel the calm energy just emanating from that image, you know. Because it does, it has this deep embodied quality and meaning. Each pore of the Buddha's body comes from, it's like a realization he's developed. So the throne showing this kind of nobility mind that he's developed, you know, a nobility that's beyond all the challenges of the mind, karma and delusion. He's like a king in terms of his level of spiritual development. And he holds his power to guide us on our spiritual path. He's seated on this open lotus, a sun and a moon cushion. So the lotus signifying kind of the mind that's free from karma, negative karma, contaminated karma. It's gone beyond that, and it's soft and open. Sun and the moon cushions seated upon the lotus, signifying the golden energy of wisdom. That's like light, you know, illuminating all phenomena. Even when he sits in this Vajra posture, you know, this kind of locked lotus position. It shows the sort of indestructibility of his concentration. Vajra means indestructible. The indestructibility of his peace that comes from the wisdom he's developed. So even when we focus on that, you know, the way the legs are placed, you know, together, it's like this very peaceful energy. And also something that can't be disturbed. And then he's seated upright, you know, his whole spine's like an arrow, locked in this kind of upright position. And he's adorned, you know, clothed in the robes of a monk, the robes of morality, practicing for many lifetimes the observance of karma, non-harming. And his whole eyes, his face, again like the sun, his face is shining on me and all beings simultaneously, gazing and very happy that we're engaged in this practice day, engaged in really thinking more deeply about karma actions and the results. It's like the whole basis of the path starts with observing our intention, why we do things. That's one meaning of karma, one layer of the meaning, being guided with proper intention. The intention in non-harming. We start there. Karma is also action. Actions we are creating continually with our body, speech, and mind. It's like imprints or seeds we're implanting on our mental continuum, on our consciousness. And what they create is the presentation of not just this life, what we experience this life, but more predominantly our future life's experience, because they take time. These seeds, imprints, take time to ripen. That's why karma is called a hidden phenomena, because to us, we can't really often see the seeds that we implant in the consciousness, and we don't remember doing that in future lives. So we don't remember why things happen to us in future lives, because the seeds were implanted in past lives. So it's hidden to us, but it's not hidden to the Buddha. When our minds, like the Buddha, illuminated by deeper levels of wisdom, then we're able to see the whole evolution of karma. Our own karma, the karma of others. But until we have that insight, that depth of wisdom, clarity, until we've purified our minds, we need to rely on the wisdom of, higher beings. We need to rely on the Buddha's guidance, the medicine of his teachings to cleanse and purify our minds. So the Buddha's aspect of being robed in the robes of a monk is showing this, he's giving the example, showing us that image guides us, it shows us that we need to practice, we need to be robed in the practice of morality. It doesn't require being ordained, it just requires correcting our actions. So we can all be robed in non-harming, refraining from killing, stealing, lying, being truthful in our relationships with others. And trying, if we can't avoid alcohol altogether, but trying to abstain, contain our level of consumption of alcohol. These are the 5 main ways we can start to practice, train in morality, if we're not already doing so, or keep deepening that practice. These are the real robes of a spiritual being. It's the foundation of spiritual practice. The other aspect of karma, we may contemplate it more deeply and we start to have some conviction. The meaning or the kind of teachings in karma start to take root in our heart. We discover that really in our lives there's no escape route. There's no one else to blame for our problems. What we experienced in our childhood, in our adulthood, what we experience now, when we have a sort of deeper integration of karma spiritually, there's no one else to really blame apart from ourselves for our problems. If our whole lives are a reflection of decisions, intentions, actions that we've taken in this and past lives, then basically it's up to us, you know. We have to take responsibility for that, for the good things, the goodness, rejoice. And also for the more challenging things that befall us. Not becoming a victim of them, but using those challenging situations to correct our actions moving forward. Using them as an inspiration. Not to do that in the future. When we understand more karma a bit more deeply and start to affect the change of practicing more morality, more self-compassion. Also, in not becoming a victim of our circumstance, not feeling like that. There's more peace that starts to happen in our minds. We feel more peaceful. Because we're not blaming others, you know. And it brings more self-confidence. So as Lama Tsongkhapa Kappa said, in the foundation of all good qualities, it's a very succinct Lamrim prayer written by Lama Tsongkhapa, the founder of the Gelug tradition. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. So whatever goodness we created follows us. We experience that in future lives. We gift that to ourselves for future lives. And whatever negativity, downfalls, things that aren't purified in the mind, that also follows us like a shadow. We have to experience that result unless it's purified. So again, just taking a moment to feel that presence of Shakyamuni Buddha in the space before us. Feeling that presence of what he created, the state of Buddhahood is completely our own self-creation, guided by the teachings of the Buddha, the inspiration of the Buddha, and the inspiration of the spiritual community. So that's what we need, these three, to sort of develop on the path: our own intention, our own karma, our actions, our body, speech, and mind, gradually transforming into the qualities of the Buddha and the blessings of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And as we gradually shift our actions of body, speech, and mind karmically in alignment with the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, that much more our understanding, our appreciation, especially all the aspects of Lamrim, but especially karma, start to deepen. How our inner world starts to transform gradually into the qualities that the Buddha embodies, mainly through this foundational practice of observing karma, practice of morality. So let's just finish this meditation by just chanting a few of the mantra, streams of golden light coming from Shakyamuni Buddha, just filling us up with sort of this deeper kind of understanding of karma, this trying to help us to sow the seeds, to have a little bit more conviction or curiosity to understand more deeply, practice more deeply karma, teachings on morality, giving us a power to change our actions of body, speech, and mind where needed. So they're slowly becoming more and more in alignment with the teachings, with the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Ayada mune mune maha munaye soha. Tayada 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 mune mune maha munaye soha. So we'll just take a 5-minute break and just trying to hold Shakyamuni Buddha there. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are always there, always guiding us. We just need to connect with that presence, connect with that communication that's happening with them, with us. We just don't feel it all the time. So try to just feel the presence of Shakyamuni in the space before us or on our crown, just blessing us and trying to help our mind develop more deeply this kind of understanding of karma, the experience of karma in our own being, how it's operating in our daily lives, through actions of our body, speech, and mind, through the presentation of what's happening in this life. So we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll do another half-hour meditation. So, okay, so let's start again, keeping the thread of that kind of meditation space. Keeping the presence of Shakyamuni Buddha with us. That light, the light is wisdom, the light is presence that continually illuminates our path, illuminates our mind, opens our mind to be able to understand and receive more deeply the teachings. So during the class, one of the things that we studied was, the four characteristics of karma. So again, for each of the topics in the Lam Rim, whatever you're studying, contemplating, for us really to be able to ingest it, we need to listen. There's a wisdom through listening. There's a wisdom through reflecting. So in the monasteries, it's like reflection, meditation sort of combine in this practice of debate. They debate these topics. They debate the different philosophies, philosophical points of view, that come up as you go through these topics. And that allows them to integrate more deeply the wisdom into their hearts and mind, the wisdom of that topic, to get more clarity and insight into it. So for us, I think it really comes through the practice of reading and meditation. Those both. So when we're reading as well, we want to be in a sort of reflective state so that it goes, the topic sort of settles more deeply into the mind and starts to align with our actions. So here in the place, a little bit more meditative state, we just go over again what we went through in the class, the 4 characteristics of karma. First one being that karma's definite, that non-virtuous actions that harm ourselves and others, bring about unhappiness or suffering. That's definite. And virtuous actions bring about happiness. So karma has that characteristic or nature. If its nature is non-virtue, harmful, then the result will be the same for us. That's the result we'll experience in the future. Just like when we plant a particular type of seed, it has a particular result. It doesn't deviate for that. So actions motivated by virtuous states of the mind, like loving kindness, compassion, just even non-harming. Holding that when we do an action not to harm, that ripens for us in a positive, pleasant experience. For example, right now we're living in an environment where there's peace, there's no war. That's the result of not killing in past lives. Being in that's an environmental result. Has that direct result, not killing, of feeling we're being in a place of peace where there's no war or violence. Also, these 4 characteristics come into play when we start to think about what we need to purify in the mind, you know. The fact that actions have a particular result means there's certain things we need to purify because we don't want to experience the result of that. I mean, nobody wants to suffer, not even the slightest discomfort. So based on one aspect of karma being definite, we start to slowly come to a conclusion that there's actions we've created in this and past life, mainly due to the power of habit and not really questioning, not being aware. But as we become aware, then we start to slowly understand through these 4 characteristics the need to purify. So one of them is definitely this definite nature of karma that the Buddha pointed out, you know. And the next aspect of these 4 characteristics, the next one that's even more pertinent when we think about the need to purify, cleanse the mind, is that karma's expandable. So whatever seed, due to the sort of energy, the power of the mind, the consciousness, whatever karmic seed, action, the body, speech, and mind, no matter how much small we place in the mind, it has this increasing, it increases exponentially. It increases in strength and in power for both virtuous and non-virtuous actions. It's just one of the qualities and aspects of karma that we're not aware of, but that's what the Buddha discovered. It's part of the nature of our lives, the energy consciousness. So that's why it's important to try and, wherever we can, even create small virtues, small goodnesses, small kindnesses, because that will ripen and increase in the mental continuum. And where we can, start to correct our actions in those small lies, you know, small harms, mentally, especially mentally, or with speech that we create with others. We try to slowly correct them and purify them when we can. Otherwise, they multiply into something more that we're going to experience in the future. So karma's definite. It has this particular way, virtue of ripening into virtue, non-virtue into non-virtue, into suffering. And all these karmas we're creating are increasing exponentially in the mental continuum. And the other one, in some ways, is quite logical, you know. But also each one in their own way is very profound. Next one is, you know, we can't experience any kind of karmic result if we haven't created the cause. So again, if we haven't created the causes of happiness, certain types of happiness like wealth, material comfort, maybe we want praise from certain people, but if we haven't created the cause, we won't receive that. We won't experience that result. Similarly, if we haven't created the cause of harming others, killing, you know, or lying to others, deceiving others, creating ill will, then we won't receive the result, especially from that particular person or group of people, if we haven't created the cause. It's like if we don't plant certain seeds in our garden, of course we don't have the result of those seeds, you know, we don't get that plant, that fruit, that flower. It's exactly the same in the mental continuum. So why something happens to someone else and doesn't happen to you, either positive or negative, is because right at that time, you haven't created the result for that. Again, coming back to, we have to create, we are the creators of our own life, our own destiny, all the way up to enlightenment. Comes back to this sense of personal responsibility for our happiness or our confusion or suffering, you know, which one we experience, we have to take responsibility for that. Either rejoice or purify, because we're experiencing a certain type of suffering or problem right now that we need to purify the cause. And the final characteristic, quality, we could say karma, aspect to karma, is that whatever we create, you know, whatever actions we create, they don't get lost somehow. They don't disappear sort of magically or get fed up being there and just kind of dissolve, you know, in the mind. Whatever we're creating doesn't get lost. No matter how long the time between creating it and it ripening, it stays there in the mental continuum. Just like I shared during the class the story of Nagarjuna, the great Pandit saint who lived around the 2nd century. Even though he was a realized master, he hadn't purified a particular killing karma. And this allowed the sort of jealous prince to be able to kill him with a sort of piece of kusha grass, you know, not with a sword, but only under the condition of a piece of grass, you know, because he'd killed an ant in the past and the karma wasn't purified. So this is like that for negative karmas. So that's why we need to always engage and really start to or think about the importance of purification. Even if we create a small karma, sits there in the mental continuum, and it can take many lifetimes, but then again, it's increasing, it's growing, and it will ripen when the causes and conditions come. Similarly, even if we're only able to create small amounts of virtue, small actions this life, they will ripen and grow in the mental continuum and eventually ripen into something very positive. Like the Buddha, another story I shared, you know, at the time of the Buddha, one lady offered a sweet, Indian sweet called laddu into the bowl of the begging Buddha. And he said, you know, in some many, many thousands of years from that merit, she would become a certain Buddha. You know, he recalled the name of the Buddha that she would become because of the power of that one offering. So again, with karma, it's something we need to go over. Keep going over in our mind, and then keep slowly we develop more conviction, more understanding of the nature of karma, how it's operating in our minds, and how we can be very skillful practitioners, skillful in our spiritual practice. And that's the main way we take care of our future lives. It's the main source of what we call self-compassion in this teaching. Correcting our actions according to the teachings on karma. And another way that we can enhance all our karmas, even small ones we create, is by also rejoicing each time. We do a positive action, or at the end of the day, if we're holding vows, every day, at the end of the day, to rejoice that we held these vows for another day, no killing, no stealing, no lying, enhances the power of the seeds that we're creating. It also causes them, it causes them to increase even more. So the result of that becomes more powerful, even more positive for ourselves. We can rejoice in others who hold vows, who try to, practice morality. Each one of us here really trying to get a deeper understanding of karma and to correct our actions accordingly. How wonderful that is. Each one of us here having already a certain level of conviction in the teachings of karma, feeling inspired to adjust our actions. How wonderful that is. And all the holy beings who came before us are here now, His Holiness, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, all their qualities came through this preliminary teaching of karma, understanding deeply karma, applying it to their own mental continuum on the basis of morality, and then creating greater and greater actions, more powerful actions to benefit themselves and others. Especially in the world today, just observing not killing. That one vow, that one practice of not killing, what an example it is in the world. And there's so much war, so much hatred and anger, that ends up, results in war, results in conflict. So all we can do is be a single example of peace, non-harming. It's like so much we can offer by practicing that right now in this world. And it's based on the practice of morality, that peaceful practice, that we're able to develop the praxis of concentration and wisdom, the deeper praxis that liberate us from cyclic existence, liberate us from birth and death, the dangers of birth and death altogether. So it's a very, very precious, the praxis of morality. Our practice of morality is precious to the Buddhas. And they're so happy the gurus, the Buddhas, the teachers are really happy when we do this practice of observing morality as much as possible in our lives. So again, let's just do a few chants of the Shakyamuni Buddha mantra, visualizing the golden light and nectar coming through Buddha, just inspiring us again more deeply, really to get this deeper understanding of the four aspects of karma. And on that basis, feeling very inspired and joyful to practice as much good karma in our lives as possible. Non-harming, good-heartedness. And also visualizing the light and nectar hitting all beings, touching all beings, so that all beings could, really waken up and get to understand this practice of morality, how much it benefits their own lives, their own hearts and mind, how important it is for themselves and the world. Hayada mune mune maha munaye soha. Tayada 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 mune mune maha munaye soha. So feel with the golden light nectar our cells and all beings have been filled up with the light of the Dharma. That much more we can practice morality, observe the kind of basic precepts or vows in our lives, the non-virtues and the virtues. Slowly, our mind starts to lighten. And that sort of peacefulness that the Buddha embodies starts to slowly blossom in us as the foundation of our path. There's an opening, a blossoming that starts to happen. And within that blossoming, there's much more space for higher qualities of concentration, wisdom, and this precious mind of bodhicitta that really cherishes others. So like we see in the Buddha, being robed. The Buddha walked around India for 50 years offering teachings, from his enlightened wisdom, from his realizations, which became 84,000 sets of teachings. And he walked with this example in morality of being a monk, observing, non-harming. It's like the container for all the other teachings to kind of come manifest in our mind. We need that container in reality. Just like he holds the alms bowl, the begging bowl, he practiced the morality alms, receiving alms every day to keep life simple. That simplicity. So the practice morality, like the alms bowl, going and collecting alms, it creates a simplicity in the mind. What causes problems, what causes confusion, our lives to be complicated, is the presence of delusions, negative karma. Our minds become much more simple when we dress ourselves in the robes of morality. And we become a container, like the alms bowl, that can then get filled up with the medicine of the Dharma and the sort of beauty and joy, the nourishment, concentration and wisdom that bring deeper and deeper levels of peace. So imagining the Buddha's really practice, we're happy we're being here today. We are merit we have to be here, to listen and reflect on the teachings. And dissolves into a small ball of radiant light. Comes the crown our head. And that golden light blessing our crown, our body with the pure action, the pure actions of the Buddha. Actions motivated with our body, killings, kind of non-harming with the body. We get motivated by that, motivated by actions, creating only good actions with the body. The golden light moves down into our throat chakra, into our speech, and motivates us. Gives us that golden inspiration to practice right speech, skillful speech. And the golden light moves down to our heart chakra, in the center of our chest, and fills up our whole body with golden light, and especially inspiring our mind with the qualities of the Buddha's mind, especially the karma that creates only, goodness with the mind, positive thoughts, the blossoming of good thoughts, positivity towards ourselves and others. And in that space, we just take a moment to feel that oneness with the body, speech, and mind with the Buddha. When we dissolve the Buddha like this, we always try to connect that ultimately that is our nature, completely one with the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. And we offer that light that we feel to all beings, just like the sun going out through all our pores. And remembering that even the most toughest people in our lives, the most toughest challenges that we have with others, ultimately that being is Buddha by nature. Even that being has a goodness, even if it's very latent, very hidden. No matter if it's somebody we know, people we read about on the news, in the newspaper, on social media, that we develop an aversion towards, a challenge with their views, that ultimately they have goodness. We all have this potential, this Buddha nature, that will one day manifest for all beings into enlightenment. So we just offer that potential, that enlightened potential out, and imagine it kind of ripens in all beings. This golden light ripens in all beings' Buddha potential, becoming stronger and stronger all the way up to a Buddha. Okay. So that's the first two meditations this morning. So we need maybe, is 10 minutes okay for a break? 10 minutes? About 10 minutes, you can grab a tea, or because we're going to have a little bit Q&A, then go over some of the points of the purification practice, and then we'll have a 5-minute break again, and then we'll do some Vajrasattva practice. So that's the second part of the session. So if you've got any questions, well, please bring them up, because we'll do that after this break, and then we'll do the how you do a little bit more in the purification meditation. Okay. See you in 10 minutes at 12 o'clock.
Hello?
All right.
Okay. So first one.
Okay, my first one is we had a class and talked about extreme phenomenon, and that we would not have access to that karma. And my thought was, well, how do we purify something that we don't have access to? So that's one.
Let's do that one first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the first question was, remember the phenomena, there's different levels of phenomena. Okay?
Oh, then let's take the one.
So first one, there's different levels of phenomena, or different layers of phenomena. So we have the manifest phenomena, we're remembering for the class, the ones that we see all the time, you know, cups, chairs, tables, everything that's kind of clear to our mind, you know, that manifests clearly to our mind. That's grosser level phenomena. Then we have subtle phenomena. What's an example of subtle phenomena from the class? Anyone remember or have an idea? Stan, you look like you're on the edge of saying something there.
I would think you just mentioned it was the nature of karma itself. Was that not it?
Well, there's 3 types of phenomena, yeah? So the category of everything, 3 categories you could say. And I know there's these 3 of this, 4 of that. And, you know, that you always get this in Buddhism, you know, the more you study, there's these categories of things. So there's gross phenomena or manifest, subtle phenomena, and very subtle. So subtle phenomena, we're not quite there yet with the karma. Anyone remember what the subtle one was? Anna?
Emptiness?
I mean,
Is that
yeah, it's not, it's actually, I think it goes more into the category very subtle. But it's possibly in that category. It depends maybe what text you look in. But one example I think probably more fits in there, because subtle's more something we don't see, but with a little bit of logic and reason, we can sort of say, okay, that is true, you know. And one of them is impermanence. So when we do the module on death and rebirth and impermanence, you know, why do we pass away? Because everything's impermanent, nothing lasts forever. And so even though we don't directly perceive impermanence happening, even, you know, a plate of food, it starts to change. We don't really see that on a cellular level. But then after 5 minutes, you know, the tea gets cold. So we know it changed, you know. So we already have some experience of that. And even on just with some applying some logic and reasoning, we know, okay, things change, things decay, things get old. We know that, and we see that in the example of our body all the time. The wrinkles on our face all the time, yeah? So that's how that becomes more obvious as you get older. So that's what we call subtle, you know, phenomena have this subtle nature and impermanence. But yeah, so very subtle is you know, the one that you're, this kind of very subtle phenomena that's going on. Karma is one of those, you know, we cannot see karma, and that goes into that category. And right now we cannot perceive emptiness, you know, we can't perceive the ultimate nature of things. We need to apply a lot of logic and reason to even get some conviction that emptiness is possible, that things potentially exist like that. And that a lot of that comes through for us, which we'll do in the last module. You're going to do with Geshe Legsog. He's more qualified to teach that than I am. On, you know, we'll start talking about dependent arising, you know, how things are a dependent origination, how things really function and operate. And so there's two sides to coin, dependent origination and emptiness. So that's more difficult to get to, and that does apply a lot of thought process, logic and reason. But even with that, we can't get a direct perception. We need to apply types of meditation to get into that subtle level of phenomena. But even karma, you know, karma's more subtle, even more subtle. So that's what your question is. So how, you know, if we can't see all that, how do we know what to purify, or that we need to purify that? Well, this is where we have to, this is the main teaching that we have to rely on. So through finding a conviction in some of the other teachings that the Buddha taught, you know, like even impermanence, we can get a conviction in that by just doing a little bit logic and reasoning that the Buddha taught everything's impermanent, including us. I mean, so what we have to do is kind of, you know, rely on what the Buddha's telling us, because we can't see that right now. You know, so we, and through the methods that the Buddha taught, one of them right now is Vajrasattva. I mean, the main method is observing the actions of our body, speech, and mind. So until we start purifying the mind in a way that the Buddha taught, and we're going to go through the 3 ways, the 4 real R's to purify the mind. But until so we have to rely on that, and slowly our mind gets more purified, it gets more clear, and we get a sort of more instinctual feel of karma. And slowly, as we get more clear, we get more realizations, we start to ourselves observe karma, or at least get an intuitive feeling for it, because we're purifying the mind. So it really comes through this practice of purification alongside developing a conviction in the teachings that we've heard already, that they make sense. So even though I can't see all these subtleties of karma right now, they must be true. Because I mean, we get faith in the Buddha that he wasn't some charlatan who wanted to make a name for himself, and I'm just going to teach on karma and get them to do all this, that. So they give, I mean, the Buddha's not here anymore, you know. So so it's really about, with these subtleties in the teachings, we have to sort of we sort of develop a conviction, even though we can't see them right now. Eventually we will, through practicing these other methods that the Buddha taught, and we get to these layers of subtleties and direct experience of that later in the path. Yeah, I mean, even when you study yoga, you know, I mean, as a yoga teacher, when you first practice yoga, you're here and you're there, and you know, you can't get all the bits and pieces, and you don't really know where you're supposed to be going. But you can see that there's teachers who understand the subtleties of the practice. The more you practice it, you start to understand the subtleties of how it opens up your body and the channels and the this and the that. I mean, mostly these days, a lot of people study yoga just for health, but actually yoga is traditionally in India, it's combined very much with the practice of morality and a spiritual practice, and being able to use that as a way to develop your mind, to realize the nature of mind. So everything, even up to like cooking, everything has grosser layers and subtle layers. You get to the point when you're a great cook that you can understand the subtleties of the tastes and create these incredible recipes because you know how all the tastes come together. So it's just like that in the path, really. Does that make that help? There's just gross and subtle levels of understanding and experiencing the path. So we start with where we are and just work, but start to get, well, this already happened. So I would imagine as I keep going, I'm going to understand and feel the subtleties of these practices. But yeah, purification is extremely important for that in this tradition. So we'll go to Ladan. She has her hand up. Yes? Ladan?
Yes. Yes, I was unmuting myself. It's a kind of personal question, but it's about karma. When I'm studying a little bit in my level, of understanding, and I want to bring it to my life, in everyday life, and in because when you know about karma and you are sensitive about it, this is a challenge for me. I wonder if you can help me that how not to go to the guilt and because now my life or life of my children or every people around me are what it is, and sometimes it brings me back in the past, and I say maybe I didn't do what I had to do, and I'm experiencing the result that I don't want, and then I get tangled in all of this. I don't have to think about the past, only the present moment, and then it becomes very difficult. And I wonder if there's something. I know that you need to let go of past, but somehow it becomes difficult because I say, oh, I shouldn't known better, and I created it like maybe in another life, and I get tangled in it.
Well, we do get tangled in our stuff, all the time, and I think I just feel like because we get tangled emotionally. I think emotionally is where we get sort of tangled in things. So I think what I just found that untanglement comes through just more practice, I mean, there's not an instant, we can't instantly, have a clean, clear mind, instantly not get entangled. It just comes through a regular, certainly my experience was a regular sort of holding, the sort of, as I say, we have to kind of hold a level of morality. That's a container for our practice, holding vows. They don't have an instant, okay, like my mind's clean, clear. And then within that, listening to teachings, purifying, understanding how to purify, maybe how to use regret in a healthy way. So we're going to go into that now. So we don't get over-tangled in, I'm bad, I did this bad, do. Just getting that a bit more clear. But it's hard because a lot of emotional stuff comes up in that process. That is the case, So we just have to keep working away on the mind, and these entanglements, and slowly through our practice of morality, observing karma, studying the Lam Rim, purifying, I mean, the mind just gets a little bit better. I don't have any other, sorry, I don't have any other answer to that right now.
No, yeah, it's helpful because like bring it in the light of your knowledge. That's already good. And I know, I know, but when I want to apply it, it's kind of difficult
Yeah.
because of emotion. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
it's
so much.
emotions, yeah, it's hard. It's not easy, the path, when you're first going in, it feels like your mind's getting worse, but it's just because you're paying attention,
Yeah, yeah,
and the dirt's come. And that's where we rely on the Sangha and, ordained lay. It's just like, it's okay. Just keep going,
yeah.
You're doing good and it's okay. And this stuff comes up and you need to keep going. I mean, it's like when you wash the cloth, all the dirt starts coming out and it's not clean for a while, it's like the dirt has to keep coming out. So it's fine, it's normal. That's what happens. And we just keep going, and slowly the mind starts to clean out a little bit more, and less of this emotional entanglement. I'm bad, poor me, all that kind of stuff that's not helpful. That's why I think purification is so important for us Westerners, and also just relying on rejoicing. Even though our meditation wasn't great, we were all distracted, I don't know what I'm doing. How wonderful it is that I'm trying to develop, really developing that sense of joy, working on that alongside the purification. It's really important. It takes time.
Thank you, Venerab.
Yeah, Terry?
I know early on in our teachings, it talked about the Buddha taught things that were not contradictory to one another, that the teachings are not contradictory. So this question is, one of the things was that sometimes a guru may tell a person you should eat meat, and sometimes a guru may tell a person you should not eat meat. In regards to karma and killing, could you speak to that? In regards to
At our level,
eating meat.
well, so the thing is, we're eating meat. We're not that, certainly you don't, we have to not directly kill the being or be in any way participatory in that process. Of course, it's wonderful to be vegetarian. I'm not completely vegetarian. Sorry. Not because I don't want to be. I mean, I have tried many times. But I still hold the vow of no killing, because I'm not going out directly and killing that being. I mean, it's not ideal. Lama Zopa Rinpoche was vegetarian. It's definitely, I would say for us Buddhists, it's the best example. His Holiness says he's 50% vegetarian because he also tried to be vegetarian and could not. So just to be clear, when you eat meat, you're not killing. And yeah, of course, some being died for you to eat that, but then vegetables too. It's not like you eat vegetables and nobody died, I mean, of course, when you have to sow vegetables for the earth, you have to get so there's still a process where beings are harmed in that process. The clothes we wear, all come from, this is the nature of samsara. Whatever enjoyment we have comes from others. Whatever comfort comes from the kindness of others, and often others being harmed, in that process. Not just food, but shelter, clothing. I mean, the houses, building houses, well, how many beings to break the ground, died in that process. So we tend to get quite laser focused on just the meat one. And I'm a vegetarian and I'm a vegan, so I don't harm others. Excuse me, but we're all harming others all the time. We harm others when we go out in the car. I drove here today. I'm sure there was sentient beings who died when I was driving along the road, So that's actually, that sort of cuts a little bit. Sometimes we get a bit of pride around being a vegetarian or a vegan because I'm not harming, and that's not the correct view. It's of course it's wonderful to rejoice and it's a good practice, but it's not the end of like harming others. Excuse me, for our comforts. It's just one way to reduce harm is to be vegetarian. It definitely helps, in the process of non-harming. But until we're out of samsara altogether, that can be an incredible meditation on developing renunciation. It's like, if I can really, really get out of samsara, I won't harm anyone again because I won't have to rely on food, clothing, and shelter, which all results in sentient beings in some level receiving harm because I have to have this comfort. So we're not killing by eating meat, only if we directly go out and kill an animal or we ask someone else to do it. That results in a killing karma for us. But of course, holding the vow of no killing. When you eat the meat, to, you know, you can do mantras, pray for the animal, and as much as possible, just develop your practice so you get out of samsara altogether and you don't rely on any of these things for our nourishment at all, meat, vegetables, anything. That's the best, you know. But we have to start where we are, and we're not perfect yet. We're not Buddhas yet. So we still have to rely on these things. Some of us are not perfect. Some of us don't, we can't sustain ourselves on a vegetarian diet. You know, it's just, I mean, I think one Westerner asked the previous Karmapa, is it better to be a meat eater or a vegetarian? So his reply was, better to be a humble meat eater than a proud vegetarian. And of course, you know, so, but again, it's great to be vegetarian. I rejoice in people who can really keep that practice, because I'm not able to, and I really think it's wonderful. Especially some people go through a bit of hardship with it. But if it comes to the point where you've got no energy and you can't practice, and it's really affecting your mind sometimes, when you because you need a certain, just need a certain diet, you know, then I think you have to go with that, you know. But we're all individual, but yeah, it's not, you're not killing by eating meat directly, you know. But it's nice if you can pray and make, definitely for any of the animals that died. That's why we offer our food to the three jewels, any type of food, because it benefits the beings as well. We pray and dedicate for the beings. Does that help, Terry?
That helps tremendously. I was vegetarian for many years. As I've gotten older, I can't maintain that anymore. And so now I feel guilty. So thank you deeply for that clarification.
Yeah, I have some other friends who were vegetarian for about 25 years, and then your body changes. And I have another friend who was mostly vegetarian, a couple of friends, and then they would eat meat sometimes, but now they're vegan. So it's like, oh, because that's where their body went to in their aging. It was better for them, you know. So again, the main thing is, if we're practicing, we're meditating, we're bent, you know, we're trying to have a good heart, we're trying to develop our mind, we're not just like gouging down the meat and not caring, you know, just do it with sort of morality and mindfulness, you know. I mean, I do feel like as a society, I mean, we can see that there's far too much meat consumption. So to be an example of minimizing our meat consumption, only eating it for health, you know, it's a really good example. Or being vegetarian or vegan's really great too, you know. Either one, you know. It helped me, because I think if I'd been vegetarian, if I could make it on a vegetarian diet, I might have thought, well, everybody needs to do this, you know. But because I couldn't, it was a bit more humbling. It's like, okay, well, maybe everybody can't be vegetarian, you know. But because I made Buddhism, I'm like, okay, I just threw away the meat, you know, like I don't need to do any of that. I wasn't vegetarian before. I'm like, I'll be vegetarian. And then after a year, I was like falling down with no energy, you know, I was getting so thin. And so for me, it was like more humbling that I couldn't do it, you know, because I think if I'd managed it, I might have had this view that everybody can do it, you know. But, you know, so it can create more compassion as well when you can't quite hold all these sort of, you know, strict kind of, you know, vows or whatever that you want to do. You want it, but you're not able to, you know. So it's good both ways. Good. There's different ways to look at everything. Joe?
Oh, hello. It isn't a question. It's an idea. It's something that came to me in one of the earlier modules, and it was definitely to do with karma. But now that we've completed the karma module, I think I'm going to try it. It's a strategy. Because is it Lama Yeshe? He used to say, check up, you know, with your mind. And so I'm going to try something. I've got these you see them in schools, plastic cubes,
Oh,
different
yes.
colors. So every so often in the day, I'm going to sit quietly, and I'll know by checking in with my emotions, with my thoughts, and I shall have 3 colors, one for body, one for speech, and a different color for mind. And I will think about the 10 non-virtues and refraining from the 10 non-virtues. And every so often I'm going to check up, and I'll use a a black cube for non-virtue, because that will mean ignorance. It's I'm doing something because I'm missing the mark. And then the white ones for, whether I've refrained from it or and I think that will be, I'm a very practical person, and I just think I'm going to try that strategy. So I don't know how it's going to pan out. I don't do linear time very well, so there's no point me saying, right, 5 o'clock every day, I'm going to sit down and do that. I'm going to do it intuitively especially if I feel, not at peace. I'll sit down, I'll reflect, work out, just how I'm doing, really. So as Lama Yeshe said, check up. So I just wanted to share that, because it just came to me actually during this session today. I remembered that I'd had this idea in another module, and I thought, okay, now that I've learned more about karma, it makes sense to try it. So there you go.
Well, have you been reading Liberation in the Palm?
No, I've been reading the Lam Rim. I find that amazing, and the stages of the path. I left it a little while ago. I just started the section on patience, and I'm glad I left it, because now I need to go back to it, and I think I can really, it will help me to learn now and to apply it. And I'm not averse to reading the same chapter, probably on patience, over and over again.
Yeah. No, there's no end of patience that we need, yeah.
well, exactly. And I gotta, always learning. And thank you, if I don't get a chance to say thank you for this module and everything that, everything that you do, everything that you are, and what you give us, and also to my classmates. So yes, thank you.
Well, just to that, I wanted to say, Joe, is why I asked if you've been reading Liberation in the Palm, because there's actually an example in there of one, maybe Gen Bungul, it's this one meditator who he used to be a thief, I think, before, and then he changed and became a monk in Tibet, and then he became a great meditator and practitioner, and his practice was what you're doing, but he did it with stones. He would find dark stones, and he would
I've not read it.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful because he did that. He started, and he said, at the beginning of the practice, when he really looked up his mind, there was more black stones and white stones. But as he developed, he was starting to get more white stones at the end of the day than black stones, depending on what kind of thoughts and everything were going on in his mind. So it's great. You've already come up with that with cubes. We don't need to use stones now. We've got lots of things we can use.
and what I'm going to do is to do it every time I do it throughout the day. I shall try to be a compassionate witness to myself. So having a bit of detachment, saying, right, okay, that I'm feeling, that bit needs sorting out. And you've done well there. And so I'll try it out. But thank you for sharing that about the stones.
Yeah, thank you. Stan?
Yes, I wonder if it's okay if I share a dream that I had recently.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about it. I'm a musician, and in this dream, I was riding in a car with Miles Davis, who was driving erratically, and I could see that he was coming to a corner, a turn on a steep precipice that I didn't think he was going to make, and so I thought, we're definitely going to die, and so I just immediately closed my eyes and thought of the Buddha as a reaction. And in my mind, there was an image of the Buddha. And then after a while, I realized that we didn't go over the edge. And I looked up and we were okay. And then I woke up soon after that. And I just was taken with the auspiciousness of that dream. And I wondered if you had anything. I think it's actually caused by my increased Dharma activity since taking these classes and the help you've given to me and the rest of the classmates in inspiration for the teachings. But I wonder if you had anything more to say about that.
Well, I just think I think it's really what you said, Stan. I mean, it's wonderful. It's always auspicious. I mean, to see an image of the Buddha. So you brought this image to the Buddha to mind, or it just appeared in the dream?
I closed my eyes and I made it appear. I said, okay, I'm going to focus on the Buddha because I'm going to die now.
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't I expected it to be a quick death and like reflecting on our class on death and dying.
Yeah.
I couldn't, imagine that I would be able to do the meditations on death in the death process. So in the immediate death experience I anticipated, I'll just hold the image of the Buddha in my mind. And hopefully that would be a benefit to me, which I understand is the case.
Yeah.
So and it was in fact, I saw it in the upcoming materials. I was browsing, and there was actually a drawing that was very much like the Buddha that I saw in this image. But I think it's a common image. And anyway, the point is that I just made myself generate that image and let things unravel. And then it didn't. I was saved somehow in the dream. So
Well, it's the power of the Buddha saving you, but it's also it's just the power of you, when you can bring your spiritual life into your dream life, it's a really good sign, That's all it is. It's a good sign. You have your awareness and the depth of your practice is just getting deeper, and to be able to like think that in your dream, as your refuge. It's just a really good sign. It's like we don't try not to cling on to dreams, but also just rejoice, like, well, that's wonderful. I had that dream. It was an auspicious dream. It's probably a sign of purification. And just as you say, how the teachings are just impacting your life in that way. So they start to impact your dreams. So any kind of positive dream we have like that, whether it's a Buddha appearing, there's many auspicious dreams, like having dreams in monastics or your teacher. There's certain purification dreams you can have. Anytime you wake up for something like that, just rejoice, because it makes it more powerful as well, that you're happy about it. And it's a good sign that your mind's developing. I think it's really that's what you can say. I don't have much more, but that's good. That's great.
Yes, and I think so too. And I really want to thank you for your teachings of these classes. I rejoice very much in being able to take part in these, and you personally.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you. So we have Dana's got one more question. Then we need to move on to the purification, and we'll not get there. Yeah. Okay. Well, whatever your other question is. Yeah, you can change your question. Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you. So yesterday, after, I think so. Yesterday, after we were talking, and you were talking.
We had a Q&A yesterday because Dana emailed me with 8 questions. And I was like, okay. I mean, I did say that I was open to questions. So I said to her, let's just have a WhatsApp. So I asked her to keep 2 of the questions for the class, just to clarify that. So we're having one more of the questions or another question. Yeah.
You kept talking about this eons and eons of karma, and both good and bad. And I thought to myself, I know this may sound obvious, but who is keeping count?
Who's keeping count?
Who's keeping count of all this
keeping
stuff?
count of all their karma? The Buddha's got it all in a big checklist.
I am now. I
It's
am
like,
with my cubes.
It's
I can do it for a fee.
So, I mean, it just was my
Yes.
How?
How do we keep count? Anyone want to answer? Who's keeping count? Is it like Santa Claus in the sky keeping count of all the list of all the good stuff? The good, it is. It's because this is a lot to drop into your mind. As karma's like a really complex subject, So I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible because my understanding is really simple. But in some level, it is simple, But we still need to. We need sometimes a lot to get our understanding clear. Anyone want to?
I want to share my idea. I wanted to share my idea if it's
okay, Ladan, and then
okay.
Terry's got her hand up too. Yeah.
Like I'm imagining like our consciousness without ending, without beginning, like a circle. and there's like a river, and there's all good and bad that are turning around. And in this time, we are just catching up with some of them, and how we are thinking, how we are acting, bring back some of those seeds and some of those actions to the
sort of forefront of what,
Yeah.
what we're experiencing. Mhm. That's one aspect, yes. Then maybe Terry, you had your hand up. What do you want? We'll all share just a bit of what we, how we understand that.
I think it all just stays in our consciousness, our continuum. And so it's all already there as we move from one life to the next life for eons or until we become enlightened.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's basically the answer, you know, in a simple way. Again, we are the storehouse. Nobody else storing it up for us. Nobody's keeping count. It's our mental continuum. Because, you know, I mean, again, this is another hard, what we could say, subtle thing, you know, continuity consciousness. It takes a lot to grasp. Beginningless lives. That whole concept of beginningless, it's hard to fit that in your mind. I mean, we generally know this has a beginning, this has an end, you know, beginningless. I mean, what is that? That's not easy to wrap our heads around, our minds around, our experience around. And that is one of the harder things to grasp. But, you know, the thing is, the way I look at it is I can hardly remember what I did yesterday. The older you get, you know, our memories are very selective. And, you know, what we did, I mean, none of us, you know, most of us probably don't remember being in the womb. You know, we don't remember much about our childhood. We have, you know, some memories, some things, but there's so much about this life we don't remember. You know, so, you know, that's one aspect to think about. Well, how can we're not able to remember past lives, you know? And then again, to kind of absorb this concept of beginningless consciousness is difficult. The only way we really, I mean, there are some, I think if you study in the monasteries, they do go in, you know, you can study philosophy, the nature of the mind, how the mind's a container for all these karmas. You can go into more topics on that when you go into mind and mental factors. I mean, Bay's been studying some of it. We're not going to go into that level of philosophy. So you can study and logic and reason some of these things to a certain extent when you go into deeper study. But I think, you know, for me, my main practice has always just been purifying, you know, purifying, collecting merit, service. And then somehow you get some sense in your own experience that at least there's been a few past lives for here, you know. And then once you get, I mean, it's only when you get to a level of either sort of tantric practice, or I know in the sutra tradition, when you develop what we call the calm abiding. This is a level of concentration where you can stay on an object for 4 hours and the mind doesn't move. You know, we can hardly stay on the breath for the count of 10. Maybe some of you can, more than that, a few minutes, you know, 10 minutes. But you can develop the mind just through the power of familiarity. And through, of course, we need merit as well. We need a certain amount of positive energy in our mind anyway and practice morality. But it's possible to stay on an object for up to 4 hours. When you get that level of concentration, it's called the 9th level. Do we have that elephant in? No, we don't have the... there's a diagram where it shows you all the levels you can develop up to the 9th level. When you get to there, you also develop a certain amount of clairvoyance and you start to see some of your past lives. On the level of, so when you study the actual like paths on the stages of the path to enlightenment, when you're on a certain level of bodhisattva ground, you can see so many past lives. Then you go on another level, you can see more past lives. So it actually does enumerate through the text when you study the whole path to enlightenment. And when you get certain realizations, what do you see? What do you experience? There's a point where you can see, you know, a certain amount of your past lives, and then it gets wide. Your clairvoyance gets more and more and more as you develop. So there are beings who can see many, many past lives, you know. And certainly, even if I mean, I met someone who could remember, I think I mentioned this before, who could remember being a fish. That wasn't somebody who was particularly, you know, she didn't have Shine, she didn't have calm abiding. She just had, you know, some people have some power already from their past lives that they're able to see some past lives. So she could already remember when she was young being a fish many times and being a horse many times. And I felt she was totally genuine. I mean, who would own up to that anyway, you know? So there wasn't any in it, nothing, you know, she had to actually not talk about it when she was younger because her parents were finding it was a bit freaky, you know? But she felt comfortable to tell me, and I was like, oh, I should bring you into the DB class, you know? Because this is genuine, and you know, so she could remember many lives like that. So there are people who can remember some of their past lives. And that was someone who remembered being a few times an animal, a few, you know, different types of animals. So, but yeah, we just don't have the level of mind right now. But and yeah, so our there's nobody else keeping track. The Buddha can see all our past lives, and we are the container of that. He sees what's in our the container of our mind, you know, and he gives us the medicine to gradually get out of, you know, the different levels of sort of delusion and confusion we're in. But we hold all that, and we will be aware more and more of that as we develop in the path. So just, Joe, maybe just a couple of minutes. Is it some kind of quick? Because I feel like I need to go in.
I was gonna answer the question, then I got a blank, and then you talked about memories of of different lives. I just say lives in different timelines. Just I have memories of different lives, and for me, they've I'll try and be quick. The ones I remember, they all have the same theme, and it's something I need to work through in this life. The one that that goes back to Scotland, that's why I'm here in Scotland, is more complicated than the others, and that's what I'm working. But how common is that? I mean, and mine came, you know, spontaneously. But as I said, for me, they're useful because it tells me, you know, what it is I have to work on it now, and it's a good guide.
And I think that's the main thing with knowing about past lives. It guides you into like what you need, as you say, what you need to do, what you need to work on this life, you know. So anyway, let's go into I'm just going to bring up the PowerPoint because I don't think, again, I had some memory loss about what I finished with because it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago we did the last class. So you can remind me. I'm going to spin through the slides to get to the one. Oh, actually, no. Let me just get to the one on the side here first. I just want to go through the 4 R's. Well, the 4 aspects of karma. Now, let me find this slide. It's somewhere here. Right. So do we remember roughly from, just covering this very briefly, from the last class, we went through the 4 aspects of the so when we create a non-virtue, so now we're going on to purification. What do we need to purify? Well, we don't need to purify our good actions, you know. We need to purify that which is going to cause us to suffer in the future because we love ourselves, yeah? I mean, we do care for it. We want to care. This is caring for yourself. This is the best way to take care of yourself, really, is through purifying our karma so we don't experience suffering that nobody wants to experience, you know. We all, in the human realm, we all have similar things we don't want to experience, you know. We don't want any slight discomfort. So we don't want to experience any of the results of these 10 non-virtues. So from the last class, just what we're purifying in the Vajrasattva practice is the 4 karmic results of the 10 non-virtues, or any non-virtue that we create. That's a complete non-virtue. Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, you know, any of these, they have 4 ripening results. And just touching on them, because we did go through them, yes, in the last class, am I right? We went through the 4, yeah. So one is the ripening aspect. So the main one is like which realm we're going to be born in. So a non-virtue like killing, if it's a complete karma, the ripening result of that is the throwing karma. I'm just throwing out these terms. The more we hear them, the more we sort of, you know, get familiar with them. The throwing karma, or the ripening aspect of that, is a rebirth in the lower realms, if it's a complete, strong non-virtue. That will take us into the hells or the animals or the preta realm. So what we're purifying in the purification practice is we want to purify. We don't want to go there. I mean, if somebody tells you, you know, in a week's time, you know, you're going to get shipped off to some horrible country where there's war, famine, disease, you'd be like, ah, you know, you wouldn't want that, you know, so you'd be like taking refuge and doing whatever you can to try and avoid that. So it's a little bit like this, you know, we don't know where we're going to be in a week's time. I mean, we hope we're still here in California, we are precious human life and but we have all these seeds that are, you know, that we need to, that are on the mental continuum of actions we've done in the past. So that's the first thing we purify through the purification practice, the rightening aspect. The other one is the experiencing the result similar to the cause. So even if that one means that depending on the power of the karma, even if it doesn't take us to whether we create a very strong karma to be born in the hell, but then when we get out of that, we still have to, it's like a side effect to that karma. We still have to experience the result similar to cause, which means we could be born in the human realm, but have a really short life because the killing karma was so heavy that when we get into this life, we have a short life, or we have a lot of sickness, or we could die in the womb. You know, it's like our killing karma is so heavy, you know. So what that does, this purification practice is purifying that. And then the third one it purifies is something called the result similar to the cause. So that means when we create the result similar to, so that means so even if we get born in the human realm, we have a habit of killing. That's the worst one, Rimshi says. That's the one we really want to purify. The one similar to the cause. Because, you know, okay, we experience the result of killing, we go, the hell's finished, it's done, you know. Or we come back here and we get killed, and okay, that karma's purified, you know, because or it's finished, you know, it's been extinguished in the mind because we've received the result. But the worst one is if we keep creating the karma, then we keep having to go to lower realms. It's very hard to get out. So we actually, and you know, the main one is taking the vow of non-killing, for example. When we take that, we start to purify that karma. Something that happened to me, which is more related to the fourth one, but something that happened to me when I took my vows as a nun, I'd already taken the lay precepts, and then I took the vows of no killing. And within about a year of taking the robes, I had a lot of digestive problems. And that's a result of, that comes under the last one, the possessed result. So that means that even if you're, it's called an environmental result. So you can be born, you might not die or something, but you could be born in a war zone, you know. You could be born in a place where you don't feel at ease, you know, where if you've stolen a lot in your past life, you might be born in a neighborhood where, you know, there's break-ins all the time and you feel like uneasy, you know, because you feel like you could be your house could be vandalized or broken into at any time. So you don't feel peace. It's like you destroy your own peace, you know, you're in an environment where you don't feel peaceful. You don't feel at ease. You feel kind of anxiety, under threat all the time. So that's what we call the environmental results. So from one karma, there's all these trickle down results, you know. It's not just like, oh, I killed someone, then I'll get killed. First of all, the karma, expands in the mind. And then, you know, each one has these 4 results. And the worst one, Rimshi said, is the one where we keep creating the same karma. That's why taking vows is so powerful, because then in our daily life now, we're creating the habit of no killing, no stealing, no lying, even though we don't do it perfectly, but we keep purifying, and then slowly, slowly we get better, you know. I mean, for a Buddha, it's not possible to harm. Even if a Buddha walked over an ant or a bug, they say that because the power of the Buddha, that ant or bug gets born in these God realms. You know, so even though it dies, it's like there's this power that the Buddha holds where they just go to a higher realm, you know? So it's like if you were an ant or a bug, you'd want the Buddha to stand on you, you know? Because you'd get out of that realm right away. But because the Buddha has omniscience and clairvoyance, they don't do that anyway. They see exactly everything and where they're standing and what they're doing. So these are the 4, this gives you a little bit of an idea of why we need to purify, because the karma has this kind of, all these results. Tommy? Yes.
So just so I understand, the third result
Yes.
that you could experience is that you you have a habit of continuing
Yeah,
to.
you do experience, it's not you could, you do experience that. I mean, you can see it, all our habits, you know. Our life is all about habits that we create, you know. So that one, yeah, so you do, each of those actions creates that habit again.
And then one other question: the 4 different results. These are it kind of depends on the type of karma that could have one of these types.
Yeah, I think it depends how heavily you create. So there's 4 kind of, yeah, it depends if the 4 factors of, you know, when we create an action, there's intention. I know there's a few lists here, but there's intention, isn't there? There's the 4 aspects of it, how you create karma, intention. There's the basis, the being, and then there's the completion of the deed. You actually do it, and then there's the doing of the deed, and then there's the sort of completion, you know, it's done. So if those 4 factors are there, and especially something like killing, and then you go, wow, that was, you know, I'm so happy I did, you know, you rejoice in that. That's like part of the completion. That's very heavy, you know. So when you rejoice when you do something negative, like people steal and like, wow, we were able to rob that bank and look how much money we got, and they add all that layer on, it becomes very heavy, you know. So that's part of the completion of the deed. So when those 4 are there, and we talked about there's ways where the karma become heavier. So again, it just depends how heavy the karma is. But either way, mostly all of these, I mean, again, karma's a bit tricky, you know, but mostly all of these will be in there. The completion, the 4 of them, definitely in terms of going to the lower realms, that would mean that the 4 of them, if you have the 4 of those in there with a negative action, you would go to a lower realm, you know, for sure. But for example, you know, there's other levels where you know, you might steal something and then, you know, even again, if you steal something later, regret it or have a level of regret, then you might not experience going to the lower realms for that. But you could still, you know, if you don't do enough purification, you might still decide, but I'm still going to do it again. You know, the regret's not strong. So you could still create the action again, and you might still, depending on the level of regret and how you purified, you may still get stolen. You know, you might have the experience of people stealing for you for past life. It depends how much you purify. The main part I understand is certainly for the first one, the ripening result, to go to the lower realms, you would need to have mostly the 4 of those there, you know. But again, it depends on the heaviness of your intention. It's not really super clear, you know. It depends really how heavy the karma is. But most of them, most of the time, you know, that one creating the karma over and over again, the habit, that's the one that we really need to work on. Because then all the rest we clear ourselves from, you know. If we can purify the habit, then we're not going to receive any of the rest of them. Does that help? So just to move into, oh, sorry, here. From current slide, make it a bit more clear. Is that up on, did I share that? Is it on? No, sorry, I haven't shared that. Let me just share this. End show. Got it up on my screen, but I hadn't shared it with you. Share. Oh, gosh, I just closed it by mistake. Well, wait 2 minutes. Right, that's what I want to share now. Bigger. Share. Okay, back again. Okay, we're here now. Yeah, share. Is it coming up? Yep. Okay, good. So, just going, I think some of you are familiar with them already. Maybe we can ask Bay. Bay, what do we do to purify? There's 4 powers we rely on. While I'm getting the screen up, what's the first power that we really need to rely on? And this comes through the Vajrasattva practice. I'm going to go over these, and then we're just going to go into the Vajrasattva practice when I can get them up on the screen. What's the first one, Bay? Bay knows this very well, so Bay can teach it. Yes. So what does the power of regret mean to you, Bay? How do you do that? Practice it. Can you hear everybody? Can it? Yep, we need to get the mic. Yep. Power of regret. In some ways, this is a little bit more tricky to get the right way to regret here, but Bay.
By going through like events in the day and seeing if there any misdeeds that I committed, and then just generate regret.
Right, that's definitely it. It's not just in the day. So once we get deeper into the purification practice, we can start with that. We can start with the day, the week, the month, start to move into our lives. Then we start to go into past lives, even though we can't see them. But we'll just start with the day, the week, the month, like that. Generally in our life right now, what actions can we feel are harmful, and generating and seeing that they harm ourselves and others, especially through our speech, I think with others in relationships, that's a big one. We're not, I think, actively going out and killing anyone, thank goodness. But through our speech and our mind, they're the harder doors to tame, and to kind of really get on top of our, being more positive. So regret, another way of thinking it's a bit like, once we understand karma deeply, it's like poison, but something contaminates. These negative actions contaminate our mind, and they create contaminated, painful results. So we don't want the result of that. So we purify, we have a regret for ourselves. We have a regret because we harmed other people, but not to the point where we're beating ourselves up and feeling guilty. That's that we need to kind of work in that balance. We need to be honest with ourselves and sincere that harm myself, that's harming others, and I don't want to experience the result of that in the past, and generate a sort of regret or almost like a repulsion. Again, quite strong words, but it's got to be healthy as well. And then, so like that, something like that. And that takes a while to find that right regretfulness in our mind, that what that mental factor is. It's like a mental factor. It's a mind not being deeply emotional and I'm bad, and it's not going into that. It's kind of separating the actions that we've created and remembering we have this ultimate goodness. But that action wasn't good. That wasn't good. This wasn't good. And I need to purify that. And I really don't want to do that again. That kind of mind, Because I don't want it, for them it wasn't good, and I didn't want to be lied to in the future. I don't want people to say malicious things about me. I don't want people thinking really heavily about me. I don't want depression and anxiety. That all comes for ill will. So the more we study the results of the actions, it's like, well, I certainly didn't want that. So whatever I've done of that in the past, I want to purify it. In a nutshell, that's what that is. The power of reliance. Does anyone want to speak to that? Maybe Urs?
Well, it's on the screen, obviously, in refuge and bodhicitta. But so you kind of rely on the Buddha or the teachings to purify, or I guess that's particularly about karma, because karma explains kind of the whole process. So refuge and bodhicitta is kind of also turning your mind around. Instead of harming others, you kind of try to benefit them. That's also a way of purifying.
Yes. Yeah. And as you say, we rely on, so every practice, even when we start the teachings, although I didn't say the prayer today, but we're always taking refuge in the Buddha. We're always taking refuge in his teachings when we're studying, practicing, meditating. So we always recite this Sangye Chodang prayer at the beginning of, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. We're going to do this as part of the Vajrasattva practice. So we're relying on these three pillars, the Buddha, the Dharma and Sangha. They're our pillars, our spiritual pillars in any practice. It's like when Stan had the dream, he leaned on the Buddha to get him, so he didn't fall down and die, So we lean on the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha in any practice we're doing. We're recognizing that, leaning on that. And we'll go into that a little bit more, the practice of refuge in the next module. What does that really mean? But we take a sense of refuge from our negative karma in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha who holds all the accomplishment of how you practice positive karma, how you really turn the mind to all your actions eventually become Buddha, become, positive, virtuous, beneficial for others. So we rely on beings and teachings and a spiritual community practice in that way for us to be able to purify and become like that. So and the nice thing about these 4 opponent powers, they all start with R, so it helps us to remember them. The power of the remedy, Be. I'm just going to go back and forward between Be and Urs. The power of the remedy. What does that mean?
Remedies like the antidotes to the negative deeds. So, for example, the Vajrasattva purification, or anything that will counteract what we've done.
Yes. Yeah, it's like a remedy you take for any illness, yeah? If you've got a bee sting or a sore back, or, we take a remedy. So we see, I think I mentioned a few of them in the class, Vajrasattva. There's many things. I mean, listening to teachings is a purification. Everything becomes a purification when you absorb yourself in the Dharma. You think about the Dharma. It's shifting your perspective. It's shifting your way of being, it's informing your mind, hopefully in a positive way, So listening to teachings, here it's Vajrasattva with the particular 4 powers. There's reciting sutras, there's doing, reading the Lam Rim, anything. So in that way, when we do any spiritual practice, we can actually try to apply the 4 powers. One of them being the remedy, another one being regret. We're relying on the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And as I mentioned, I'll just say this because we need to move on, but the power of resolve, again, it's like we already do this already, when you really snap at somebody and maybe you think, didn't have much patience there, and you sort of regret it. You can feel it's harmful. And the main thing is you can feel it's harmed yourself, it's kind of harming our pure nature of consciousness. We're creating these like contaminated seeds in our mind, It's not clean, it just doesn't feel nice, So even though maybe that person in some conventional level was really irritating, but nonetheless, it's like it's our responsibility to practice patience, not anger, So we and later on you think, well, even though he was really annoying, blah, 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 you felt regret. So that we already do that in our lives, We already practice a level of regret. So we're just applying that here to more of our lives, more of our actions and over a longer period of time. And then we kind of usually say, well, the next time so-and-so does that or say that, or when I'm in this place, I'm really going to try not to get angry. That's already the resolve. So we've all done that somewhere along the line, or do it, So that's what we do here, but we do it in terms of like, looking at the 10 non-virtues. And then as we go deeper into the Vajrasattva practice, we talk about purifying vows that we've taken in this and past lives that we're not able to keep. I mean, I've taken bodhisattva vows, tantric vows. We have to do Vajrasattva practice every day because we can't keep them purely. We're not able to. But it creates an imprint for us by taking them to slow, and then we just training them, so that we become better and better. But in the meantime, when we can't keep things purely, we need to purify, So it's the same with the 10 virtues and non-virtues. It's like just starting where we are. So, but we need to kind of purify lots and lots of, there's a whole bunch of things that we need to purify, So that's what the resolve means, like as much as possible. And we can do a resolve for a short period of time. I mean, we might never not get angry with this person again, but we usually might say, well, at least the next time I speak to them, I'll try and be patient and not get angry, like that. We just resolve to do certain things for a certain period of time that's manageable, not that's unmanageable. It's like making a promise or commitment to yourself. So that's what the 4 powers are. How many of us do the Vajrasattva practice or some kind of purification practice and have some familiarity with the 4 powers? Just putting your hand up. So it's Terry, Ladan, Urs, Bay, so Lakshmi. Yeah, Lakshmi. Yeah, Lakshmi. Yeah, okay. So some of us are familiar, some of us it's new. So let me just now share the Vajrasattva practice. Give me a minute. Vajrasattva. Where did I put it on my computer? Should have pulled it up in the break. Oh, here we go. Short Vajrasattva, right. No, it's not that one. Sorry. Trying to find it here. Where did I? I saved it somewhere yesterday on my computer. Oh, yeah. I know where I put it. Karma. Okay. Right. So here's one that I took from Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive, but this one is available. You can find it anywhere, the short Vajrasattva practice, really. This one's written by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. You can find it on Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. You can find it on, you also can get it through a PDF. Maybe, you could send it out to the group at the end, maybe, if that's okay. The one that's by Rinpoche, so that you have it if you want to start doing it. Now, Venerable Katie Cole leads this 5 days a week through Land of Medicine Buddha in the evening, because generally say this is the best time to purify at the end of the day, you know. Certainly as Bay say, purify what you've done through the day, but we also want to look at the week and the month. We want to sort of do deeper layers of purification as well. So how does it work? We'll go through for about 5 minutes. We're going to have a 2-minute pee break because I need to go to the bathroom as well. Sorry. It's a bit cooler in here, so when it's colder, somehow I need to go to the bathroom more often. We'll have a short break and then we'll do about 15 minutes of Vajrasattva, 15, 20 minutes of Vajrasattva. But how it works is we rely on the deity Vajrasattva of purification. He's a deity of purification. So we rely on, this is how Vajrasattva looks, and we visualize Vajrasattva and we recite the first R, taking refuge, you know, and which is the reliance R, you know, taking refuge. So we recite the refuge prayer. It's a little bit different from the I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, because this practice is related to Tantra. So even if we don't understand sort of all the points here of the refuge prayer, just feel that you're taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha right now, and all the sort of enlightened beings, all the holy beings. And we're doing it because we want to benefit ourselves and we want to benefit all beings. You know, we want to bring ourselves and all beings to enlightenment. And to do that, we need to purify. We need to purify karmas. Then we rely on the level of power of regret. And I'll just kind of read a little bit, say a little bit how we do, because some of this, again, is a little bit more going into broken vows that we may not be aware of right now. So I'll just lead a couple of minutes on how we think about the power of regret. And definitely in the context of impermanence and death, you know, this is the main motivating factor for purifying. I mean, we don't know when we're going to die, you know, we really don't know. So, and we do want to keep our mind as clear and peaceful and light as possible as we go into death. You know, we want to have cleaned up our mind as much as possible, not die with regrets, not die with things unpurified, specifically in this life. But even if we can touch into purifying past life karma, then that's wonderful, you know. So, and that's one of the main motivating factors for purifying is to, you know, so we can have a good death and go into a good future rebirth. So remembering death, you know. Then again, this is just separating here, remembering it's part of the reliance generating bodhicitta. We're doing it for all sentient beings. And then the visualization is going into the R, the remedy, which means visualizing, like we do with the Shakyamuni Buddha practice, visualizing Vajrasattva. And then we're going to recite the mantra together. Coming from a stream of nectar coming from Vajrasattva, we're going to recite the mantra a few times together, because it's the visualization, the main medicine is visualizing Vajrasattva and reciting this mantra. So we're just going to do it a few times together just to get a feeling of the practice. So we're going to do it 7 times together and feeling that we're purifying actions of our body, speech and mind, and this cleansing light coming through our crown. And the visualization we're going to hold is just, we imagine like we're in a shower, and you know, when we shower, all the dirt comes off the body and it kind of goes down through the drain, you know. So we imagine all the dirt from our mind, all the dirt and negativity, our body, speech and mind, actions we've accumulated now and in the past, clean out and go through our lower doors like soot or dust or tar. smoke, whatever they feel like. You can make it as visceral as possible, the visualization, and they just dissolve down into the earth and disappear completely from our mind. So we get clean like a vase inside, or like a shower going inside and just cleansing us completely. And we feel it through the power of the mantra, the power of our visualization, and the power of our refuge and non-regret, that everything really gets cleared, cleared. And then we make this resolve not to commit them again, and Vajrasattva dissolves into us. So just touching on that, that's a bit of a quick explanation, but do you get the sense? We get a sense of what we're going to do. So it's just this whole cleansing process, and the cleansing's coming through our refuge, through relying on the 4 R's, that's the whole cleansing process. So shall we just take a 3-minute break? So because we've been talking for about an hour, and then we might go for about 5 minutes to about 20. I'll try and finish by 25 to. So we have about good 15 minutes for the meditation. So let's jump into the Vajrasattva. Yeah, I know that I don't want to go too over. So let's just take a moment to just have a look at Vajrasattva, So the other thing is you can find recordings. Venerable Yonten, I think, leads this in about 15 minutes. There's a recording you can find online where she does the meditation in 15 minutes. Venerable Katie offers it, 5 nights a week through Land of Medicine Buddha as well. If you want to get a little bit more, go a bit deeper in this practice. We just finished a 4-day Vajrasattva retreat that we do every year at Vajrapani. We do that every new year because it's like you want to clean up your mind for the next new year, so that always seems to be really, really popular, that retreat. So this is what Vajrasattva looks like. This again from the tantric teachings, a tantric deity who specializes. All these deities have their speciality, So the speciality of Vajrasattva is purification, purifying. That's the energy. Purifying our body, speech, and mind and negativities we've created now and in the past. And really trying to cleanse these 4 ripening results of karma that we don't want, Rebirth in the lower realms, the habit to create it again, experiencing the result again of being killed, being lied to, being not trusted, being thought of maliciously, these things happen through our own actions that we create in the past. So I want to purify that, and also purifying the environmental result. Being born, nobody wants to be reborn in a war-torn place. Being born in a place where there's no, sustenance. There's no crops. The crops don't grow. The food doesn't sustain us. We're born into poverty due to stealing karma. So, we don't wish this on ourselves. We don't wish that on anybody. So this is the way to assure a better rebirth for ourselves, purifying what we don't want to happen in our future lives, and create. The other thing purification does is it creates a lightness in the mind, so it's easier to practice virtue. Because sometimes we really want to be a good person. We don't want to have negative thoughts. I mean, I think that's all clear. We're here because we want to improve ourselves, but sometimes it's not easy to get on top of the mind. So when we purify, mind becomes lighter, more pliable, and it's easier to create virtue. It's easier to create the habits that we want to create, within our body, speech, and mind. So that's an important quality and benefit of purification. The picture. Yes, definitely. Where am I now? How to take that away? So now I need to, usually there's a bar here that lets me, I don't know if it's because it's a Word document. It's not allowing me. Can you do it, Bae? Can you make that bigger? I don't see the bar on. It was? I did? What did I do? No, there's usually another bar here that I can usually know that increases the size, but I'm not sure how to do it here. In Word, what would I do? Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go. Perfect, Jay. That's it. Oh yeah, that's huge now. Yeah, I don't want that big. A little bit more, like this. Is that helpful? That's better, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful image there of Vajrasattva, very beautiful. I mean, we might not be able to visualize that, but sometimes when you look and you just sort of plant the image on your crown, that can help. But mainly just holding this feeling of sort of luminous white purity, and it's definitely a being, a deity, like a Buddha, who wants us, who loves us and wants us to purify. So that's why he's manifested in this aspect. So we start with, so let's just go into practice, into meditation position. Connecting with whatever motivation, inspiration we have to purify, even if it's just small right now, just clarifying that motivation, that intention, wish to purify. And then just due to that, Vajrasattva, spontaneously manifests on our crown. This beautiful lotus, soft lotus flower that all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas abide on, showing their awakening. Showing the softness and purity of their mind that they've developed, fully developed. And they're seated on a moon cushion. The moon embodies the quality bodhicitta, shining on me and all sentient beings equally. With a love and care, for spiritual development. And then seated on the lotus and moon is Vajrasattva. The Dorjian bell he holds kind of symbolizes the unification of compassion and wisdom. The two wings that we need to develop on the path. And he has this soft, loving gaze that we feel through the white light that's emanating from him as well, and just already touches us, the luminosity of his body touches us already as we visualize him on our crown. We feel it touching all the cells, pores of our being, just that presence. And then the first R, relying on refuge, refuge that we need to develop. We're leaning on Vajrasattva to help us purify. And we're just going to say the prayer one time together, just affirming our refuge for ourselves and also for doing it for all sentient beings, refuge and bodhicitta. Our practice is always to benefit others, to plant these seeds of bodhicitta in our mental continuum we always dedicate for others. So let's do the prayer just one time together. I forever take refuge in Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. I take refuge in all the three vehicles, in the dakinis and dakinis of secret mantra yoga, in the heroes and heroines, the gods and goddesses, and the bodhisattvas of the 10 bhumis. But most of all, I take refuge in my holy Guru forever. So right now, Vajrasattva is our Guru, our spiritual friend and teacher. Then we rely on the second R, the power of regret. The regret, it's like ingesting poison. Every time we create negativity, it's like we infect the mind, the mind is pure, clear, loving and knowing by nature. So it's like we contaminate our minds by creating actions motivated by anger, strong attachment, ignorance. So think about those actions with our body, speech, and mind that we know are hard for us, you know, we feel controlled by, and feel that we really want to expel them from our whole being. Just like we want to get rid of poison from the body. If we take poison by mistake, we want to get it out. We take an antidote. So it's a bit like that. We take the antidote of Vajrasattva, but we regret, you know, the actions in the first place. Generate that mental factor of regret, regretfulness. And then we recite the mantra. You know, once we really feel clear about everything we feel regret for, we want to purify. We request Vajrasattva to please purify me and all my negativities created in this life, this day, this week, this month, this year, and from beginningless rebirths. Just try and ask for the whole package to be purified. Vajrasattva is really happy, and from his heart streams down powerful white purifying nectar, coming through our crown and just filling us up, you know, like showering us, and we get filled up at the same time. A showering light and nectar, it's like psychic blissful energy. So we try and feel that filling us up, and all the negativity is going through our lower doors and dissolving down through the earth like tar, smoke, soot, whatever they feel like, just kind of being released from our mind, you know, cleansed from our mind, like, again, like that, the dirt from when we start to wash a cloth, you know, a white cloth, all the dirt comes out. It's just coming out of our mental continuum as we recite the mantra. So we'll do the mantra 4 times together. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anorakto Me Bhava Savasiti Me Prayatsa Savakama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hong. Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Savatata Gata Vajra Mame Mutsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahombe Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Patita Dido Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anorakto Me Bhava Savasiti Me Prayatsa Savakama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Savatata Gata Vajra Mame Mutsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahombe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Deno Patita Dido Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anorakto Me Bhava Sarva siddhi me prayatsa sarva kama sutsa me sittam shriyam kuru hong ha 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 ho bhagavan sarva tata gata vajra mame mutsa vajra bhava maha samaya sattva ahom pe Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sattva Deno Padida Dido Me Bhava Sutto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anorakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Kama Sutsa Me Sittam Shriyam Kuru Hong Ha 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 ho bhagavan sarva tata gata vajra mame mutsa vajra bhava maha samaya sattva ahom pe. So just feel through the power of the mantra and the power of the purifying light and nectar. All the negativities have been completely purified. We've tried to generate a faith that that's actually happened, through the, especially through the power of Vajrasattva's compassion for us. Then the last R, the power of resolve, refraining from doing the actions again. Just see if you can make a commitment, promise. Is there a particular action where body, speech, and mind we need to pull back in, Try and refrain from, make a commitment to do for a certain period of time. Then we visualize Vajrasattva as really happy with our practice of purification. We are commitments not to commit certain negativities for a period of time, really refrain from negative actions. And you melts into light. And again, our three doors, the body, speech, and mind, get blessed with a purifying energy, that clean, clear nature, like diamond-like. Vajra means dorje, can mean diamond, that diamond quality of pure consciousness fills our whole being. That oneness with Vajrasattva. And out of this, see if you feel like maybe to make a commitment to your purification practice. Again, it can be continuing the teachings, to study and meditate and listen to teachings on Lamrim. Or we can also extend it to bringing in a sort of purification practice into our lives. And then taking a moment to rejoice how wonderful it is. We've spent the morning, a good part of your day so far, engaged in virtue. It's nothing more important than the teachings on karma, to reflect and meditate and really change the actions of our body, speech, and mind. It's the best compassion, the most powerful compassion we can have for ourselves and for others. So how wonderful it is. Just, again, this karma I've created this morning, just multiplying it by rejoicing, making it more powerful. So it ripens into something more powerful. And also dedicating it for others. You know, so we dedicate in emptiness. So we haven't done the emptiness module yet, but we'll just read through this and then we'll dedicate the last for others, the last verse. Due to all the merits of the 3 times collected by me, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and all other sentient beings, which appear to be real from there, but which are empty, may the I, which appears to be real, but is empty, achieve Guru Vajrasattva's enlightenment, which appears to be real, which is empty, and lead all sentient beings who appear to be real, but are totally empty, to that enlightenment which appears to be real, but is empty, by myself alone, which appears to be real, but is totally empty, non-existent from there. And dedicating for the good heart, mind of precious bodhicitta, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche would say, especially in this current time, for it also to be the good heart to ripen in the minds of all these beings who hold power, political leaders, spiritual leaders, you know, really always to be motivated by the good heart for the welfare of others and for ourselves as well. May the precious bodhicitta, the source of all happiness and success for myself and all other sentient beings, be generated within my own mind and the minds of all sentient beings without even a second's delay, and may that which has been generated increase. Okay, thank you so much for joining this morning. Didn't go too much over time. And I know it was a bit short, the Vajrasattva. Some of you are familiar, but if anyone has more questions or is more interested in that practice, you're welcome to reach out to me and, you know, can go into a bit more. But I'm sure it's going to come up more as we go through the Lamrim as well, the modules. Yes, Bay will send out that practice, yeah. So you've got it available to you as well. All right, so maybe we'll see you on Tuesday. Wow, already. Oh yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah, one more, Ladan.
Yes, I wanted to thank you for the session. I had sent this assessment, and the last question. Now I know that it wasn't clearly explained about the four way of your of the karma, speech and body, speech and mind ripen. So I wonder if I let it like this, or I send it to you, my new comprehension of that question, or I just leave it like that.
I think you just yeah, that's okay. You can send it to me, your new one. Yeah, of course. Yeah, if you get clearer, no question. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Nothing's too strict here.
Everyone's happy. Everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Enjoy the
Thank
rest
you.
of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Angie. Thank you.